If the Trump presidency was pitched as a film, then it would have been rejected with a single note. This could never happen in America. The Constitution would intervene, Congress would resist, the courts would step in and the guardrails would hold. And yet, here we are. Cinema has imagined this before, and so today we are going to revisit those movies that have asked what happens when the guardrails fail, when a superpower goes rogue, and when tyranny masquerades as leadership. So now let's turn to the films that warned us about figures like Trump and see, for better or worse, how they imagined this story might end. The Dead Zone. David Cronenberg's The Dead Zone, adapted from Stephen King's 1979 novel, presents a version of America seduced by a loud, charismatic strongman, a figure who looks and sounds disturbingly like Donald Trump. Martin Sheen's Greg Stilson builds his rise on grievance and aggression. At rallies he stokes division, encourages violence and claims to speak for ordinary people, dressing the part in hard hats when it suits him. He attacks bureaucracy whilst positioning himself above it. In the movie's resolution, Johnny Smith, a teacher played by Christopher Walken with the ability to see into the future, foresees Stilson triggering a nuclear war and so attempts to stop him personally by assassination. Although the assassination fails, Stilson is caught in a photo holding an infant in front of him as a human shield, and that photo, revealing Stilson's true colours, is what derails his run for the White House. The most unsettling difference today is that Trump has been exposed, and repeatedly, to criminality, to corruption and self-interest, and yet nothing sticks. King failed to predict that Stilson could have supporters so willing to accept the crimes of their leader that they would just swallow it up and turn a blind and accepting eye. The Dead Zone offers a warning wrapped in hope. The problem is that in real life, the photograph has already been taken and the crowd is still cheering. Dr. Strangelove. Stanley Kubrick's Dr. Strangelove satirises a system where ego, paranoia and unchecked authority can trigger catastrophe, yet the rigid systems make stopping it nearly impossible. In the film, one delusional general, played by Sterling Hayden, believes that he alone understands the stakes and unilaterally sets the machinery of nuclear war in motion. But bureaucracy, legislation and rigid protocol prevent anyone from reversing the decision. And that's the chilling reality now. Trump is clearly breaking the law and exploiting his powers. But, like Dr. Strangelove, it begins to feel as though no one truly has the legal authority or the courage to halt the process once it's underway. The film ends with total annihilation. Kubrick presents no correction, no constitutional rescue, no heroic intervention, just mushroom clouds set to soothing music. Hopefully it doesn't come to that in our reality, but when power and military might is handled like toys in a playground, it really doesn't bear thinking about. The Siege. The Siege from 1999 imagines an America where, after a series of terrorist attacks, the government responds not with restraint, but with overwhelming force. Bruce Willis's General William Devereaux floods New York with troops, suspends due process and orders mass detentions, whilst FBI agent Denzel Washington and CIA operative Annette Bening watch the country slide into authoritarianism. Doesn't this feel alarmingly familiar in the Trump era? Under Trump, the idea of militarized enforcement stopped being hypothetical, and it didn't even take a terrorist act to set it off. Masked, armed ICE agents raid specific ethnic communities, separating families, detaining civilians, and federal forces are deployed against protesters, which mirrored Devereaux's occupation of Manhattan completely. The film ultimately offers reassurance. Devereaux is stopped, martial law is lifted, and institutions reassert themselves. But that ending depends on something increasingly rare. Officials willing to defy unlawful orders and place the Constitution above personal loyalty. Under Trump, that safeguard has been deliberately weakened. Key positions across government and law enforcement have been filled with underqualified loyalists, not to serve the public, but to protect the president himself. Idiocracy. Mike Judge's Idiocracy imagines an America so addicted to entertainment and instant gratification that competence becomes a liability. Luke Wilson's Joe Bowers wakes up 500 years in the future to find a nation so stupid and shallow that it's run by the former wrestler and reality TV star turned president played by Dax Shepard, whose authority comes not from knowledge or experience, but from volume, confidence and crowd approval. Trump's rise is built on a similar mechanics: media dominance, reality TV bravado, and the rejection of professional expertise as elitism. The film's ending offers mild hope when Bowers, armed with nothing more than basic competence and common sense, begins to repair the damage. But that resolution depends on a population willing to listen, and that's where the fantasy collapses. In today's America, evidence, expertise, and even criminal convictions fail to break the spell. Idiocracy stops being a comedy when you realise its warning is about a society that actively rejects fact and procedure in favour of baseless claims and a more engineered narrative. Are you enjoying these choices so far? And please show your appreciation by giving this small, non-AI channel a like and subscribe for more movie analysis. Back to the Future 2. Back to the Future 2 imagines a world warped by greed, corruption and unchecked ambition. In the film's alternative 1985, the villain of the piece, Biff Tannen, played by Thomas F. Wilson, uses future knowledge to amass wealth and political power, and Hill Valley becomes flashy, oppressive and dominated by a single ego. Bob Gale has said that Biff was inspired by Donald Trump and envisioned a Trump-style future: oversized buildings, tacky interiors, chaotic streets and a government bending to one self-interested figure. Like Biff, Trump loves his own name and image on everything, turning institutions and public spaces into extensions of his brand. In the movie, Marty and Doc restore order. In real life, there's no time-travelling hero. Systems move slowly, they're fragmented, and often fail to resist concentrated power. Back to the Future Part 2 exaggerates for comedy, but its warning hits hard. Biff-era alternate 1985 is closer to reality than fiction. Starship Troopers. Paul Verhoeven's Starship Troopers envisions a future where society is reshaped into a militarized, hyper-nationalist collective, one where citizenship and identity are earned through obedience and force. The American First political landscape mirrors this world through the elevation of narrative over truth and the strategic use of fear to marginalise enemies of the state. In this context, social media and biased news cycles function like the film's satirical federal network broadcasts. They cultivate a constant state of outrage and an us versus them mentality that emboldens the movement. As Verhoeven himself has noted, the current political climate echoes the very society he sought to warn us against, a world where loud patriotism and moral absolutism are frequently mistaken for true leadership. The film's conclusion provides its most chilling insight. The bug is captured, the public is united, and the propaganda machine functions flawlessly. Verhoeven's most brutal point is that the system doesn't fail, it succeeds. The machine operates exactly as designed, fueled by the blind belief of its subjects. And now, as we look at our final films, the warnings become stark. Without intervention, chaos and authoritarianism can become unstoppable. 1984. Michael Radford's 1984, adapted from George Orwell's novel, presents a world where truth itself has been abolished. John Hurt's Winston Smith lives in a totalitarian state where history is rewritten daily, facts are malleable, and loyalty to the leader outweighs reality. Contradictions are accepted, obedience is enforced not just through fear, but through exhaustion, confusion, and the relentless control of narrative. Trump-era politics offers a stark reminder: relentless attacks on journalism, the branding of inconvenient facts as fake news, and the cultivation of alternative narrative reflects George Orwell's warnings. 1984's resolution offers no relief. Winston is broken. The system wins. There is no heroic intervention and no safeguard capable of resisting the tide of manipulation. And that makes it perhaps the most terrifying story of all, and in the context of Trump's presidency, Orwell's nightmare reads less like fiction and more like a warning. Lose the truth and everything else follows. Civil War. Alex Garland's Civil War from 2024 imagines a near-future United States torn apart by internal conflict. Cities become battlefields, and journalists Kirsten Dunst and Kaylee Spaney navigate the chaos as ultra-nationalist militias and armed factions seize control, fighting for a third-term president whose refusal to yield power escalates division and violence. The parallels are chilling. The January 6 Capitol attack revealed how rhetoric, loyalist networks and armed groups can directly challenge democratic institutions, and Trump has never hidden his own ambitions for an extended presidency. The film's scenario forces reflection on how dangerous that kind of concentration of authority can be if combined with mobilised loyalists and widespread political polarisation. The film's conclusion is brutal. The president is executed, leaving the nation leaderless and fractured. And whilst execution may be a bit brutal, in Trump-era America, the good ending we hope for, order, accountability and the protection of democratic institutions, is far from assured. But civil war warns us that escalating division, incendiary rhetoric and armed loyalty could seriously threaten national stability. And so there we see that cinema has shown us the consequences when the system fails. But Trump-era America shows us that the final act is not guaranteed. And so the big question remains, can we prevent the nightmare from becoming reality? Or is it too late? Thank you all for watching. If you've enjoyed it, hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and check out WN Movie Talk for more movie-related discussion.